Yeah, so the director, Dan Reed, came out kind of before the release of this
Hmm.
movie and essentially blasted the movie, like just saying like,
Yeah,
"What are we
he's the
doing?"
biggest critic for sure.
Like very much, which I guess you would obviously you would expect, but I think just raising the issues of like this is a guy that did in his mind like horrific things behind the scenes. Like, how can you tell his story without addressing any of that, or like why would you want to tell his story and like
Hmm.
kind of elevate him as like this like I saw, I think I forget what the outlet was, one of the big outlets I think referred to this as like the passion of Saint Michael, like it very much is presented as a saintly figure. And um so I mean there's sort of back and forth between the director of the documentary and the director of the movie. So this question is very much in sort of the public eye, which I think for again for this podcast and for us, like that is a valid question. Like,
Hmm.
what do we do as Christians for things like this? Like, how much do we? I don't know. Like, how much can we separate the artist from the art? Like,
Yeah.
can we? Should we enjoy? Because like I think you see Christians that go very far one way of like even if it's like not bad or like problematic art, just if they're not a Christian, it's like, well, we
Hmm.
shouldn't, we shouldn't even enjoy, we
Yeah.
should only enjoy art if they're Christians and they are very much like
Hmm.
aligned. And that's how we determine what good music is and good books and movies and stuff. Like, and then you have sort of the other side of it that's like, you know what, like art's art. Like a lot of artists were messed up people, but doesn't mean we can't appreciate their art. Maybe to get us started, like how have you sort of thought about this issue? Because I got some thoughts on this one, but like sort of that whole question of sort of the art and the artist, and like like are you ever bothered by? Does that ever come into your like consideration, or do you pretty much sort of separate those two?
I think in general I'll separate it. There's definitely a few times where I've been like either felt guilty for watching a movie or just been like more cautious about doing it. But it is a when you sit down and think about it, it is a pretty complicated question. And I think like it really depends on you as an individual and what your convictions are when it comes to that, and also who the artist is and what the art is. So there's so many like base questions that you have to answer before even getting to can you separate art from the artist, or can you separate this artist from their art? You know, like if it's a sexual offender who's singing a song that's just hurling insults and vulgarities the whole time, I mean, probably shouldn't be listening to that anyways, but I feel like in that case, that feels very like, I always say like what is the art? Is it edifying? Is it good? Is it good, true, and beautiful? And I think in those instances, it's easier to separate the art from the artist, and still like they should be punished for their crimes if that's what we're talking about, if they've committed a crime. But that doesn't mean that the art that they created should be punished, you know?
Yeah, because I think, and I mean because I feel like this movie is a bit of a different case, which I'll explain why. But like I think in general, I'm mostly with you. Like I think I try and I mean I've always like I think as if you've engaged with art at all or watch movies and stuff, like it's very clear like so-called good people can make very bad art,
Mhm.
and like so-called bad people can make very good art.
Mhm.
Like a lot of great God-fearing Christians have made this atrocious art that should not be celebrated no matter how godly and inspiring and admirable that person is. There's also been some like total scumbag you know Hollywood people that, or painters, or whatever, that have some of these guys like that have made brilliant art. And I think there
Mhm.
is a sense that like, okay, like, I can affirm the art as its own thing
Mhm.
without necessarily, like to enjoy a painting is not the same thing as like affirming every
Yeah.
personal choice that the artist ever committed. And there is sort of an icky, so I think it's maybe a different, not necessarily art necessarily, but I know you sort of have this issue when like a Christian celebrity or leader like has a moral failing. Like I know I was like a big Ravi Zacharias. Like I really
Mm.
admired the apologist. Like admired his work and just his whole demeanor and like his writing, his arguments. Like I was very much a fan of his work. And then like after his death, it comes out that like he was abusing, and there are all these things that went on uh, that no one knew about. And there is sort of that question of like, hey, well, like, the stuff that spoke to me before I knew that, like this book, his writing and his stuff, that hasn't changed,
Yeah.
but I feel differently about it knowing that.
Mhm.
And like, what do I do with that? And it even it reminds me a bit of which was before you were here, I think, on the Collision, but like when the Flash, the DC
Mhm.
comic movie, because Ezra Miller, like the actor who plays the Flash, is a his own complicated, kind of controversial person, and like I know a lot of Christians, and we even published a guest article on the Collision with someone wrestling with that question as far as like, should Christians support the movie because that's sort of supporting him, and we don't want to support that.
Mhm.
And I get that. Like, I fell on the side of like, well, like the Flash did not do anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
this is his art, and that's different. Where I
And
think this,
there's
yeah,
also like a team of people behind that movie too that you'd be punishing if you didn't watch it. You know, it's not just Ezra Miller that has to gain or lose from how well this movie does. It's also all of the technical workers that are behind the film too, who might be like the best people ever, and you don't know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's like thousands of people that worked on a movie like that, and like a lot of them, and even a lot of them we just don't know. Like
Mhm.
I think I never want to get to the place where it's like, okay, I got to start like researching, every actor's personal life before I can watch a movie that
Mhm.
they, were a star in. What I think makes this Michael movie a little different is that like, it's not really the artist and the art that's the separation. Like, we're not we're not trying to say, can you enjoy, Billie Jean or something like,
Mhm.
like, can you enjoy Thriller and also, acknowledge Michael stuff? Like that's to me, that's a different question. And the answer is, yeah, I think you can still enjoy the
Mhm.
music, even if the artist is not a person you should affirm. Like the Michael movie is different because like what you're separating is like the movie is about like the art is about the artist. Like the whole
Mhm.
thing is affirming him. Like the whole point of the movie is to celebrate the life of the artist. Obviously through his mostly through the lens of his music and his art.
Mhm.
But like to I don't know, to watch the movie is like a celebration of a person, which is very different than I think just sort of acknowledging like, well, he made
Yeah.
good art, but like I don't know. Like, I know you haven't seen the movie, but like, does that make
Mhm.
sense? Like the
Yeah.
why that I don't know. That I think that's what makes this movie like particularly complicated.
Well, even like for the Bob Dylan movie with Timothy, it's like he wasn't the nicest person, and they showed that. He was mean to his and kind of just not a good like partner to his girlfriends, and he was just kind of selfish in how he treated other musicians and like how he viewed the crowd and his fans. And he's still like the best lyricist that America has ever had. Like as you can tell, I love Bob Dylan, but he's not like that movie. I think kind of showed more of the side that you don't want to see. But yeah, even though I haven't seen Michael, from what you said, it just sounds like the whole time it's like, oh, let's dance together. But there's also like the question of like, I think for movies it's different, but for like music or something like that, by listening to this song, like your money is going to that artist. I think there's generally less people who work on a song, and so there's a higher chance that I don't know. It's just such an interesting question. Like, do we need to worry where our money is going when we buy a CD and stuff like that. But it's also the mindset of like once art is out in the world, the audience has like their experience of it changes it every single time. It's like how do you agree with that? Do you think that art is just too connected to the artist that you can't celebrate it without celebrating the artist? There's so many questions with this
Yeah, because it makes me even
question.
think of I feel like how closely it gets connected
Yeah.
is what makes it. Because like I think of even like Bill Cosby. Like I'm a big Bill
Mhm.
Cosby guy. Grew up watching Bill Cosby. I saw Bill Cosby live
Oh,
comedy show,
wow.
and he was hilarious and it was
Uh-huh.
funny and then it's like, well, then as time goes on you realize, okay, well, maybe maybe we shouldn't be
Yeah.
supporting or excited about Bill Cosby. And like it is sort of one of those things too. Like even like the Cosby Show. It's like, okay, well, like the show was enjoyable and it was funny and wholesome, and that hasn't changed. but like the character he plays is so closely connected to the persona, and if the persona
Mhm.
changes, it's just impossible to see that through like without being kind of icked out because he's playing someone that's very much
Mhm.
different, which is kind of it's kind of like the Michael thing. And I will say, um I don't know, like I think I get that like there's a very big difference between a crowd pleasing musical for a famous and successful artist and like or like a very serious drama that deconstructs our hero and shows all the horrible things about him. Like I don't think that movie was ever going to be made. Like
Mhm.
I don't think there's a world when really with any artist, any beloved artist, where a movie like that, especially when the estate is itself involved in the
Yeah.
production and his nephew is playing Michael in the role. And I did think like in one sense I'm okay with that. Like I don't need Hollywood to just sort of deconstruct all of our heroes. Like that's sort of been the trend of like I don't know, I don't necessarily need like the entertainment movie to just be a drama that shows me how bad someone that
Yeah, we
artist is.
already
Like
have the documentary to do that, you
yeah,
know?
so like so there is a sense that like I get it and I'm fine with it. Like I'm fine with sort of just celebrating. I just also think Christians should be careful with
Mhm.
sort of how I don't know, I think there should be some self-evaluation and reflection on like just like what we excuse or like how we elevate people and like look past stuff that we I think very clearly wouldn't. We would condemn were
Mhm.
they not super famous. Like were
Mhm.
just someone in our church to do that, we would not be okay with it. But it's like, well,
Mhm.
it's because even like my wife was saying like some of her students and stuff they were talking about this, and there's this sort of the sentiment of like, yeah, but like it's Michael. Like, yeah, like he was bad. He probably sexually abused some kids, but I don't know. He's Michael. Like we all love Michael, and it's like
I know.
like, I don't know. I just think the Bible does speak pretty clear. It doesn't tell us necessarily how to navigate this issue or like
Mhm.
approach entertainment directly, but like it does talk a lot about not just being seduced and like by fame and glamour and the outside and like where we just sort of overlook the character. Like I don't know. Like what do you think? Like where not that again, we're not going to give a definitive answer because I don't think there is one. Like
Yeah.
I think there is that is sort of a you wrestle with it and like I don't think you're going to lose your soul and
Mhm.
salvation if you go and love this movie and enjoy the music. Like I just think we should it's not wrong to also have the conversation of like, okay, like, are we actually affirming things or overlooking things purely on the basis of
Mhm.
they were talented and rich and famous,
Mhm.
and so we're okay with stuff that we wouldn't be because like I don't know, that is
Yeah.
bad.
It's also like, does this director, like, is it like, what's his responsibility in telling this story? Like, is he allowed to kind of just want to make a movie celebrating this music? Is he allowed to do that? Or does everything have to be, this is what happened, and this is why he's terrible, and blah, blah, blah? Like, I don't know. I think that we should be allowed to have a movie that celebrates the music. And also, like, he hasn't been, um all of the cases have either been, acquitted or settled or just simply dismissed. So, we also don't have the facts, like, that he actually did this, even though it really points to he probably did, you know? It's a question, I think, of the amount of fidelity that is required in art that adapts other stories or adapts real life. And I don't think there's a clear answer.
Yeah, because I think I mean, like in one sense, like all of these, even the more honest like biopic type movies, like they're all Hollywood fantasy. Like they're all Hollywoodized, and like even the ones that stick close, even the ones that we like the Christian ones, like like they're not reality. Like it is
Mhm.
a depiction, it's a perspective, usually a very like filtered and like manufactured and intentional. It's like an Instagram post. Like
Yeah.
it's like it's real, but it's sort of the real that we want you to think is real. Um, so I think there is sort of the sense that yeah, that's whatever. It's Hollywood. We're seeing even though it's about a real person, we're seeing a story. We're seeing a
Mhm.
story. For me, it's just like against the backdrop though of sort of the culture of like it's even I mean just like the overlooking stuff because of the like I feel like that's such like a reckoning moment for our culture right now, as far as just, like I mean, that was like the Weinstein stuff. That was a lot of these people where he was like, well, like we sort of all know these like open secrets that go on like in Hollywood and just in our culture and in businesses, but like they're rich, they're famous, like we don't want to shake the boat, like whatever, like it's not everyone, no one's perfect. Like that to me, that's where I'm like making a movie like this with all these things going around and framing it so like over the top, like this guy was like a saint. Like
Mhm.
he was basically perfect. And like
Mhm.
the only sort of issues in his life were that like the world around him just didn't fully understand his greatness. And like it's like I don't know. Like I don't think like I think there's a version to tell maybe that I don't know. I don't like maybe there isn't a version to tell that like is sort of that crowd pleaser entertainment while also not feeling like it sort of sugarcoats and like
Mhm.
sort of elevate someone based on their talent and their fame and
Mhm.
like just totally excuses. So I don't know. I think the good that comes out of it is I think you know the movie is the movie. I don't think it's just people will watch it, people enjoy it, people move on. I don't necessarily think that's like gonna change things or
Mhm.
encourage horrible behavior. I do think the good is like it has sparked some of these conversations and like the crazy thing which I found in my research too is like whenever one of these allegations came out against Michael Jackson, like his sales of his music spiked, which is just crazy.
That's
Like
insane.
it's like not only did it like I think like with the Finding Neverland documentary and like not only did it like not encourage people to like okay, you know what? Like he's great. I like his music, but there's other artists and I just can't like it's like oh yeah, yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, you see a story about his allegations, like I forgot about him. I need to go back and listen to him, and like buy
Yeah.
his album. And so, so I don't. I'm sure his music's gonna just skyrocket again with the
Yeah.
with this movie, like because he's back in the public, and very much in a positive depiction. So I don't know. I don't think there's an easy answer, which is always frustrating for these kind of conversations. I just think this is one of those cultural things as Christians that like still have the conversation, still ask the questions, even if there's not and I think ultimately it does come down to like I don't know, a conviction but if nothing else, even if you enjoy the movie, I think it's a moment to reflect and it's like, what do do I treat people different? Kind of like I think of like Samuel 16, the Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And in fact, that's a verse just to sort of in this and in anything else, like just keep kind of in front of you as far as like, am I sort of just looking at the outward and ignoring, like people, or am I actually seeing kind of more from God's perspective? So I
Mhm.
don't know. Well, curious if anyone, listening to this podcast, if you do go see the movie, either if you're like a big fan of Michael Jackson or you're not, or if you like think that Christians should just celebrate his music, or if you're like like the director of the documentary and like just horrified that we're celebrating this man, like either way, be respectful, but let us know in the comment section sort of how what you took away from watching this movie.